A ballerina's perspective, from performing with New York City Ballet and Alvin Ailey American Dance Theater to publishing poetry books and mentoring kids and teens. Join us in a weekly discussion with experts to gain mental health clarity and achieve growth in moral consciousness. Give our show a 5 stars, comment, share, and come along for the ride. Welcome to the Growth, Grace, and Gratitude podcast. Today, we will dive into the topic of stress, how to have less stress, how to manage stress, and to align with a holistic lifestyle with Dr. Gary Sprouse. He is known as the
Hi.
Less Stress Doc, and he is a
Yeah.
retired primary care physician who practiced in Maryland for 38 years. He graduated from George Washington University Medical School. He has taken everything he has learned about stress reduction and crafted his book, Highway to Your Happy Place, a roadmap to less stress. Dr. Sprouse is passionate about bringing happiness into people's lives through humor, compassion, and understanding. What a beautiful bio and everything you experience. It's so interesting to the spiritual community. So we're going to talk about all these things. So welcome to the podcast. So excited to chat today.
All right. Well, thanks for having me on. I am super excited. I like sharing the
Fantastic.
message and helping your audience have less stress, right? That's
Yes,
all
and
about.
isn't stress always such a key topic? I feel like whatever field or career or phase in life you're in, I feel like stress kind of creeps up on you if you're not managing it properly and if you're not aware of your body. I grew up performing ballet, and knowing your body was such a kind of key tool that we were taught as young kids. We have to rest adequately, we have to stretch our body every day before class or after class, even more importantly, after the body is warmed up. So I feel like those simple but basic tips are so important. They play such a big role in creating healthy habits later on in adulthood. What do you think about setting those kind of
Yeah.
habits
Well, yeah.
early
So you
on?
bring up a really good point. What I find is when I would talk to people about their stress, a lot of times they didn't even recognize the stress they were under. And I use myself as an example. Like when I was training, I lived in Northern Virginia, but I had to go to Washington D.C. I trained in Washington D.C. And on a good day, on a day where it was at nighttime, it would take 15 minutes to get there. But during the rush hour, it would take an hour. And if it was raining or an accident, it would take 2 hours. And you're like, you didn't realize how stressful that was till now. I live on the Eastern Shore of Maryland where there's no traffic. So when I have to go into Washington D.C. and there's a little bit of traffic, I'm like, I feel my heart rate go up and I'm tense. And I'm like, oh, I start cursing. I'm like, what the heck, right? And I was like, I did that every day for like 11 years. Like I didn't even pay attention to that. So you're right. Like most people don't even realize what kind of stresses they're under because it's that chronic. Here's what it is. Like, and there's nothing I can do about it. It's only the big thing happened that you start paying attention to it.
Unlock your best life with Soul app. Book a holistic wellness experience with a trained guide and start changing your life today with compassion practices, inner healing, food and diet, and so much more. Tap into a healthier and happier life with the number one purposeful living app in the US, the Soul app, link in the description of the podcast. How can people start to become aware of the chronic stress? Because I feel like so often that is swept under the rug and people just want to kind of ignore or avoid those symptoms or those experiences with even
Well,
other people, because that also stimulates that overwhelming experience of stress.
one of my insights into stress is, so I have this line that I use now. It's called better definitions lead to better outcomes. And so what I found was I would use these words like emotion and stress and worry. And then when somebody would, and safety, and you would say, well, let's define that. And what you realize is people are like, oh, I don't know. Like they know what it felt like. They know they could use it in a sentence. When somebody said, hey, I'm worried, they go, oh yeah, I know what that is. But when you went to trying to define it, it was amazing how people, even professionals, would kind of like stumble and they're like, oh, it's and I'm like, but if you don't have a good definition, how could you possibly fix it? And so, like as a doctor, we used to take care of diabetes 300 years ago. 300 years ago, we knew diabetes was your sugar was too high. Now, in the last 50 years, since I've been in practice, 38 years, we've gone from, hey, it has to do with insulin and pancreas and your stomach hormones and your liver and your insulin transport. And so now that we've had a better understanding of diabetes, our tools have gotten better and our outcomes have gotten better. And so I feel like stress is, we know kind of what it is, but not really. And so our recommendations tend to be very generic. It's like, do, dance, do meditation, do yoga, do, pray, whatever. So we have all these, I mean, and not that they work, but when you're not sure what it is you're trying to fix, they don't work as effective as they could.
That's also an excellent point. Unless you get everything checked out, your hormone level, all those things like meditation and things, they do calm the parasympathetic nervous system so you can kind of like
Yes,
relax. But yes, it's I think like both are required to understand how your body is working biologically and all these things, and also to take into account those holistic practices, because I feel like they can help as well, especially
absolutely.
when you have no idea where to start. I feel like that's a
Yeah,
great place to start. And I also feel like when it comes to stress, there's an important part to reconcile is knowing what is good stress and bad stress, right? Because when we do understand stress, the good stress, it helps us, right? It like motivates us to be better and to perform harder. And sometimes this inspires us to become better athletes or better workers, whatever we're doing. But then there's like bad stress, right? That's overwhelming. So, how to distinguish between this is a good stress and this is bad stress?
yeah. I've had that question before. I don't really think of good and bad stress, right? To me, we're in an environment that is continuing to change, which then leads to us having to adapt to a change in environment. And stress just means you're adapting to change. So when you're good, to me, good stress is I'm adapting effectively. Bad
Right.
stress is when I'm way overwhelmed. So it's all
Yes.
stress. It's all changing environment. It's how do you get better? How do you, and that's what one of your podcasters was like, how do you increase your limits? Or I don't know what to say, how do you increase your limits? How do you decrease your limits? But whatever, how do you get more effective at dealing with it? And here's what made me write the book, right? Highway to Your Happy Place, a roadmap to less stress. It started out with the less stress part. And as a doctor, I'm used to writing prescriptions. And I would say to the patient, hey, you have high blood pressure, you have diabetes, here's this medicine, it's going to help a lot. Oh, but it might have side effects, like it might make you dizzy, or it might make you tired, or it might make your mouth dry, or something like that. I took that idea and applied it to the human brain. And the insight was an epiphany, right? See, what I realized was the majority of human stresses are really side effects to our human skills. So what does that mean, right? I'm looking at you going, hey, wait, what? So what that means is like, as humans, we have this amazing ability that we can envision the future. So we can talk about, hey, let's do a podcast a week from now, or a month from now, or 2 years from now, or when am I going to retire? But right, we can go way into the future, and it's an amazing skill. We can go, oh, you know what? There's a hurricane coming, so we got to batten down the hatches. The side effect is that you have to worry about it. So I worry a lot. My wife worries a lot, right? My 1-year-old grandson doesn't worry because he can't. He can't envision the future. He can't go, oh, how are we going to pay for college? I got to think about this, right? I take care of a lot of demented patients. They don't worry because they can't envision the future. They're literally living for today, which is what psychologists tell us to do. And it's less stress, but not very effective because it's hard to operate when you're not looking into the future.
ClickFunnels easily build any type of online business and sales funnel in record time, no matter what your product, service, or niche, without any tech design or experience whatsoever. Try the ClickFunnels 14-day free trial, link in the description of the podcast.
So the key to the book, then, that part of the book is, well, how do I keep the skill and lose the side effect? And that's what the idea of the book is.
That's a great motivator for people to learn the right way to adapt and to become aware of how they adapt to environments, and how to help them shift into their overall happiness. And I feel like happiness is also a big part of your book, and how
Mm-hmm.
people also want to connect to their spirituality and to
Yes.
have less stress, to feel less stress. Do you have a definition of happiness, or
Yes.
how you like to experience things that bring about happiness?
So that came. So I started out with this idea how to get rid of stress. But as I was talking to patients, here's what I would say to them. I go, so if you had less stress, where would you be? And he looked at me like, what? I don't know. I just always, I never got past wanting less stress. And I'm like, well, wait, we need to know where we're trying to get to. And I needed to know where we we're trying to get to. So that's when I started coming up with this idea of a happy place. And as I started exploring, I was like, well, I don't even know what the happy place is, right? So I better sit down and figure it out, right? So I came up with this analogy that a happy place is like your house. And everybody that has a house, they have the same rooms. Like they'll have a living room and a bathroom and a kitchen and a bedroom and a closet, but they might be arranged differently, or they might be decorated with different colors or different furniture. So everybody's happy place has the same rooms. They're just decorated differently or rearranged differently. And so then I started going around and defining what are the rooms of your happy place. And when I did that, it was like, oh, we can get there, right? Now that I know what a happy place is, I can get all those things. That's easy, right? Well, not easy. I can get there, right? It's in my control. That's what I really want to get to. So the happy place, here's the rooms. I'll give you the rooms. So the first room is contentment. So that means how happy are you in just with the environment that you have at your baseline, right? So it's sort of like the sum of the good things and bad things in your life. And there's a second book that I wrote called Mindset Matters that I co-authored with Jack Canfield and some other authors. And what I realized is mindset makes a huge difference in terms of your contentment. So there can be people that are billionaires and not contented, and there can be people who are really
Right.
poor who are really contented, right? There can be, this article I read was, I don't know, frightening or eye-opening. They looked at people who had won the lottery and people who had been in an accident and lost the use of their legs. And with 1 year, their contentment was the same. And you're like, wait, what? Because people who had lost their legs go, you know what? This is the way it is. I'm just going to keep on going. And they struggle and they get through what they have to do. People that are billionaires are always worried about losing it. And people are bugging them. And it's like their contentment was the exact same a year later. And you're like, okay. So what that meant to me was mindset makes a huge difference in terms of where you see contentment. The
Fantastic.
second room is having pleasure. And so there's always things in our life that we have to get some source of pleasure from, whether that's eating chocolate cake or singing karaoke or playing basketball. These are the things I do, right? And then the third category is uniquely human, right? This is that using that ability to look into the future. And that's anticipating some pleasure. So my wife and I are getting ready to go on vacation, and it's like, oh, it's going to be fun, right? So that anticipation part can go on for weeks and months. Like we have a trip planned to Europe to go on a river cruise. And like we've been spending months thinking, oh, this is going to be great. And in our anticipation, the trip is going to be perfect. The luggage isn't going to get lost. The boat isn't going to sink. Everything's going to go great. The trip itself is only going to last a week or two, but the thinking about it is going to last months. So it's like, that's a really big room. And then the fourth room is gratitude. And I have this thing I use called the 50-point wake up. So what does that mean? So when I wake up in the morning, I go, wait, I just open my eyes and I get 10 points because I'm still alive. I get 10 points because I got running water. I get 10 points because I got indoor plumbing. I get 10 points because I got food. And I got 10 points because my wife is still alive and we're all in a safe place. I'm like 50 points just by opening my eyes. When you start your day out plus 50, how good can it, right? How bad can it be?
Right. Right.
So I
It's
find that
fantastic.
gratitude, we talk about gratitude a lot. It's one of your titles in your podcast, right?
Sanger Daniel's online seminar promoting a positive message of self-healing with bioenergy work together with live seminars and remote coaching. Use code BIO20 for a 20% discount for our audience. Link in the description of the podcast.
But I
Yes.
don't think we take gratitude far enough. And I don't think, here's when we realize it, like you watch that TV show Survival, and they don't have any food and they're out there and they're whatever, like, and they find something to eat, they're like, oh, and like they're jumping up and down going, oh, I found something to eat, I found something to drink. It's like, that's what we should be doing every day. But some of those things are so easy for us that we don't even think about it. Like even as a doctor, Like somebody comes to me and they have strep throat. You go, here's a prescription, take some antibiotics, and you'll be fine, right? We don't even think about it. But like 100 years ago, people died from strep throat because we didn't have antibiotics. Like it's so common now to just take an antibiotic and you're fine. Like it doesn't even cross our mind that that's amazing. We should be so grateful that we have this access to that kind of tools.
Yes, this is fantastic. And especially the part about gratitude. Exactly. My podcast, I wanted to call it gratitude because that's such an integral part of our evolution. And you find gratitude when you're in presence. And sometimes you're forced to be in the present moment. And sometimes you want to kind of learn how to be more present. And I feel like with gratitude, that brings you down to being more grounded because it makes you self aware. And when we are self aware, then we're able to see more clearly, we're able to understand life on a more personable, collective level, and we're able to kind of be more humanistic. And how interesting that today is actually National Set a Good Example Day. And
Was
this
that
is like
right?
in full alignment with you have to actually put in the work of your own awareness and setting those gratitude goals for yourself. So I feel like this is like a perfect alignment. And how you talked about the pleasure seeking and the worry part of our brain and everything, and do you suggest that people go into more of a minimalistic mindset? Because I feel like I also went through a journey where I kind of let go of a lot of things on this evolutionary pathway where I was like, I feel more inspired to kind of throw things away or donate them, especially if I don't need them. And when I cleared out my space, that helped to clear out my mind. And then I realized maybe I might be going towards a minimalistic pathway. And I feel like it's great. And you don't have to be minimalistic with your intentions or with your time or with your partnerships and friendships and work and everything that you put out into the universe, but living within a minimalistic mindset, even part of it physically, or having a to-do list, like having a minimal to-do list that only the things that you actually need to put on there. I feel like that maybe also play a great role in stress reduction.
Wow. Yeah. So I'm going to give you examples. My stepson and his girlfriend live in Atlanta, Georgia, and we went down to visit them because they weren't doing very well. They were struggling, and we were like, so we came down to say, hey, what's going on? And what we found was they were both making reasonable amount of money, but they were spending more than they were making. So they were drowning in debt. But then when we went to their house, they have a 2 acre house and they were trying to do some homesteading things, which theoretically would be to help them out, right? But then they had they didn't even know how many chickens and geese and hens and rabbits. And then they had 6 cats and then they had 3 dogs
Wow.
and then they got a puppy. And you're like, oh my gosh, what the hell are you doing, right? So what I found was every time you add something into your life, even if it's giving you some pleasure or giving you some feedback, some positive feedback, it takes energy because something can happen. So you have to think about feeding the animals and you have to worry if they get sick or you have to worry if a dog's going to come get them or you couldn't move your furniture because the cat might eat it or the puppy was pooping and peeing everywhere. And it was like all those things were taking energy and you only have so much energy. And I think what you were saying is if you take away some of the clutter, then you have more energy to focus on the things that you are doing and you do enjoy. And so you can
Right.
start getting rid of some of the stuff that isn't nearly as enjoyable. And that can be hard because we said to them, you have 6 cats, but you don't even interact with them. So you're literally all you're doing is feeding them twice a day, and that's it. And I'm like, I'm not sure that's fair to the cats or to you. And it's like if you just got rid of the cats, you would that would be that much more energy you had to put into whatever else you wanted to do.
Yes, and it's like that level of chaos. Sometimes we're unaware, like there's like stress. It kind of like creeps up upon us, and then
Yeah.
we keep on adding and adding and adding until it blows out of proportion. And I think like
Wow.
to yes,
Yes. So she added the puppy because she was stressed out and she liked having a puppy. And I'm like, well, okay, great, but this now you just added more stress to your life, and it's like, and your to your, my stepson's life. And then when people come to visit, they're like, oh my god, this is a lot of stuff, right? And it's like, but it was like that commuting to Washington. It's like there's so much stress that they can't even see it, It's only when it gets taken away, like, oh wow, that was pretty stressful, wasn't it? Right. So yeah.
Yes, totally.
Yes. So yes, decreasing what you're doing, even if you're enjoying it, because it can just take so much energy that you then don't have to deal with other things that are in your life.
Yes, and it's all about setting priorities or learning about or unlearning what priorities actually matter to you because sometimes when we are overwhelmed, we miss out on setting the priorities of what's most important. And when we can try to prepare the priorities that matter first, I feel like that's going to help also with the chaos element. And when we do have to put our foot down, this also can be a little bit tough in the beginning because if we're so
Absolutely.
used to people pleasing or putting up boundaries, it can be also a lesson for ourselves that it's like, oh, we weren't even aware of our position in our reality or in somebody's reality when we don't have boundaries and when we don't have priorities. I have a guidebook for empaths who are experiencing this shift
Oh,
that
great.
they have been in
Hmm.
chaos their whole lives and now finally they want to break free, and that chaos has kind of been connected to some kind of past pain or past trauma that they didn't integrate fully. So it's kind of like subconscious or unconsciously either leading them along this stagnant road of repetitiveness, and you have to kind of one step at a time unravel up the layers of the onion and to see where are you putting your time, where are you putting your energy, your priorities, and to shift that. And that takes a lot of energy as well. That takes even more energy to realign everything.
Yeah. Wow. So you had mentioned empath a couple times, and
Podpitch is the first and only software that finds, writes, and sends pitches to podcast hosts from your actual email address. Podpitch will make sure you get podcast bookings, guaranteed. Link in the description of the podcast.
we all are empathetic to some extent, right? So some of us are not very empathetic. Some of us are like too empathetic.
Yes,
Again,
so
it
true.
goes back to that side effect to that skill, right? So like a little bit of empathy is good. Too much empathy gets you into trouble. And I was just thinking about my wife. If you talk to my wife, what she'll say is she spent her whole life doing for others to the exclusion of herself, right? So she would say she was doing my billing for my medical office, and she hated it. And when I would say to her, "Hey, honey, let's hire somebody to do it so you can be freed up," she goes, "Why? I'm not doing a good job." And I'm like, "Ah," like right. So when I retired and she didn't have to do it anymore, there was a sense of relief. But then she's like, "Well, what am I supposed to do with myself?" And I'm like, "Well, I can go back to work. You can do billing again." She's like, "No, not that," right? But it's like, so she was been so busy doing for others that she didn't even know what she wanted to be for herself. And so now
Yeah.
she's been struggling for a couple months trying to figure out what it is that she wants to do that brings her pleasure. And so she's struggling because there's a part of her that says, "Well, I want to be involved," but there's another part of her that says, "No, I don't want to be obligated." And those two pieces are competing with each other because the person, oh, I really want to go help out at Haven Ministries where they're helping people that are homeless and getting people that are need food, but then I'd be obligated. I don't want to be that anymore, right? So it's like, so she's struggling with that. There's those two parts of herself, and I'm like, I don't even know how to. I'm trying, like, how do we step in there and like, let's get these two parts working together. So,
That's a really brilliant message. That's so true because sometimes when we're unconsciously obligated to ththings, this also ties into ancestral trauma and how we were raised and how we were brought up to please people. And then when we become adults, that shifts as well. It's so great how you mentioned that it's challenging when people are kind of tied into a slot of pleasing somebody else. So then they kind of lost part of themselves, and in unraveling that, they're going to find a newer version of themselves, hopefully, and perhaps a new passion or a new purpose and a new obligation. So we're always kind of shifting obligations, but hopefully we're shifting into ones that are aligning our passion with our purpose and what we want to be responsible for, that is leading us towards happiness as well.
right. So one of the rooms that I talk about, so we've talked about contentment and pleasure, anticipation of pleasure and gratitude. One of the other rooms I talk about is feeling fulfilled. So for humans, that's actually a really big deal. And so fulfillment really is at least three things. So one is learning. So we're a very curious organism. So we like learning. So it becomes a pleasurable activity. Two is giving because we're a communal organism. So we want our community to be successful. So that means if I'm have more, then I'm going to give to you. And then there's a time when I don't have enough, you're going to give to me. That's what community is all about. So
Yes.
giving actually makes me feel better and it helps the community, right? And then the third thing is that idea of having a purpose in life. And I define having a purpose as something that when you get up in the morning, you're excited to do. And it's like, so for me, writing this book, Highway to Your Happy Place, Roadmap, Less Stress, and getting that information into people's hands and having them have less stress and finding more success and having more energy, that's my passion. When I get up in the morning, I'm like, oh, I get to be on Harry's podcast. I'm like, yeah, all right, he's excited. Right? So my wife's still struggling to find that. I did learn from one of the other, I was a guest on somebody's podcast, and he taught me this thing called ikigai. It's a Japanese term. Okay. So ikigai is, here's how you fill it out. There's 4 circles. And so one circle is, what is it that I'm good at? What is it that I like to do? What is it that I can make some money at? And what is it that will help my community? And when you fill those things out, where they intersect, that's your ikigai. So for me, the book became my ikigai, right? It helps people. I'm good at it. I like doing it. And I'm retired, so I don't care if it makes me money or not, right? So my wife was struggling, so we did that. And so we turned out, she's like, well, she loves to cook, and she's really good at it. And it would help a community. And again, she didn't need to make money. So we're like, oh, well, let's do something food on. She didn't want to open a restaurant, but what she wanted to do is teach cooking classes to people
Wow.
who are going to food pantries. So her idea is to go to the food pantry, take the food from the pantry itself, and teach people how to cook. Because most people don't know how to cook. They just, they open a can and put it in the microwave. And it's like, but that's not what you get at food pantries. They give you vegetables and they give you like raw chicken. And it's like, if you don't know what to do with it, you're like, don't need that. And they'll go, oh, vegetables. And she's like, if you don't like vegetables because you haven't learned how to cook them right. That's her line, right? So we're working on that. That's where she's heading. So
That's fantastic. And it's also a reminder how we're all learning, and at any point of our lives, we want to become better, and we want to realign ourselves to our passion and purpose. So that's such a beautiful testament to your wife. And that's amazing to be so unconditionally giving with your passion. It also is going to align people towards happiness. So
yes.
that's a beautiful message.
So then
And
the
yeah,
last room is called CASH. Okay. So CASH is an acronym and it stands for being connected because we all want to feel connected. And then the A
exactly.
is we all want to be accepted and we all want to feel appreciated. They kind of go hand in hand. And then the third thing is feeling safe. And I was doing a seminar and one of the people said, I said, okay, come up with a time when because I do some hypnosis with neurolinguistic programming. And I go, come up with a time when you felt safe. And one of the participants like, I don't think I've ever felt safe. And I'm like, wait, what? How could you not feel safe somewhere in your life, right? So then she's like, well, I don't even know what does that mean? And then I'm like getting back to definitions, like, oh, yeah, maybe I better sit down and think about this. So what I realized feeling safe is actually not feeling fear and anger. It's an absence of stuff is what makes you then feel safe. It's not a something you feel. It's not
Right,
anger. It's not.
right.
It's I don't feel those things. So what I realized with the patient with the client was that she might feel safe right here, right now, but she would include the future and go, wow, even though it's okay right now, but tomorrow it might be horrible, or next week it might be this, or this might happen. And you're like, oh, well, then you would have never feel safe because you're always living with this fear that something might happen. So then what I had to get to was like, okay, well, I can't teach people how to feel safe because it's actually the opposite. It's the absence of stuff. But what I can do is teach them how to tolerate more uncertainty in their life. So if you can tolerate more uncertainty, then you get to feel safe. And when you feel safe, you're like, oh, that's nice, right?
Yes, that is
And then the last one
fantastic.
is having hope. And that's, we all, like people can live in these, like the book I'd read, it was by a guy who was in the Holocaust. Viktor Frankl was the guy who wrote it. And while he's in this horrible, horrible situation, he had hope. And his hope was, I'm going to get out of here, and then I'm going to write this book, and it's going to help people, and it's going to get me through. And that hope got him through. And he had talked with other people, and one guy in particular that he wrote about in his book, the guy had said, "Oh, they're going to free us March 1st. March 1st is going to come. The Allies are going to come. They're going to open up Auschwitz or wherever we're at, and we're going to be free." And he lived on that hope. And when March 1st came and went, and they didn't get released, he died 2 days later because he lost his hope. And you're like, so hope is critical.
Wow. Yeah, that's so true. Yes. 100%.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. Yes. Cash. That's such a great acronym for people
Yeah.
to kind of connect to.
So we all
Exactly.
need, here's what I learned, right? We all need cash. So when some of the work that comes off of this, what I'm doing is working with addictions, right? So I did some addiction work in the office. And what I realized is that everybody needs cash, right? But people who have problems with addiction need way more cash because they're not being accepted, they're not being connected, they're not feeling safe, they don't really have much hope, which is right. They need cash way more than the average person.
Yes.
And so when I talk to them about this stuff, like, let's get you to your happy place, you can get there, right? You can find things that are pleasurable in your life. You can find people that will accept you as you are. It's one of the reasons AA works is because you get to a community where you don't have to explain what the heck was going on in your life because they go, oh, yeah, I've been there, done that, right? And so, yeah, so when you feel that you go, I can get there, I can feel fulfilled, I can learn, I can give, I can, blah, 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 right? You can get to a happy place. And once you know where you're trying to get to, you're like, yeah, this is great. And then you go, well, what's keeping me from being in my happy place? And you go, oh, that's right, all those stresses. And those are just the roadblocks to keeping me from being in my happy place. And the roadblocks are actually because of my skills. So, like, I just have to figure out how to keep my skills and get rid of the side effects to my skills, and then we're there. We're good to go.
Yes. Fantastic. Exactly. And it is interesting also that sometimes when people are on the road and on the search for happiness, they have to also take into account their personality. If some people are more like addiction oriented and then their quest for happiness might be like addiction based, that's also kind of an important time period to like unravel your addiction cycles, or because sometimes when addiction is just within the nervous system and it's like anything you do, you're going to become addicted towards it naturally, then happiness has to be more spiritual based. So of course your whole message is also connecting to that spiritual essence of happiness through connection, through feeling accepted, through taking accountability, having hope. And yes, it's like it's a very crucial part of unloading your past self into your present self to learn to be able to cope with stress in a holistic manner as best as you can, as best as we all can.
Well, let me give you my definition. Like, to me, the medical community is gone in the wrong direction. And here's why. So we have really smart people who are in the medical community who are trying to help people with addictions. Really smart. And there's a lot of money that goes into the system to try and help these people get better, right? And the people who want to get better are really motivated. I mean, they've lost their kids, they've lost their job, they've lost their spouse. They're motivated to get back that stuff, right? And yet, despite all that, we're getting a 20%, success rate. And you're like, there's something wrong here. This isn't right. We've spent 60 years trying to find the gene, trying to find the personality, trying to find some brain defect, trying to find some genetic thing going on. No, we don't have it yet. Like, what? You've been looking for 60 years. What? Like, so what I've decided is we have the wrong model. Like, the disease model is not working. And when I say to people, they don't like that, number one. But half the people go, well, I don't believe in the disease model. I'm like, well, great. What do you believe in? They're like, well, I don't know, but not that. And you're like, okay, well, we need something then, right? And what I find is when you say to people you're diseased, you're broken, you're damaged, you're genetically defective, you're weak-willed, you're stupid, you're a personality disorder, nobody likes to hear that. So then they fight with you because you don't have any objective marker that says you're an addict. You just go, well, you drink 4 drinks a night, so you're an addict. And you're like, well, who said that? Like, I was at a conference just yesterday, and the guy got up and he was telling us that he was talking to a client who was in college, and twice a month he would get really drunk. And he goes, well, so you're an alcoholic. And you're like, wait, what? I could just see some 21-year-old going, yeah, I don't think so. Like, no, wait, no. So then you fight until the end when it's so obvious that things are wrong that you're at the bottom and you're like, all right, fine. So here's my model. So I decided we needed an alternative. So it's based on the stuff that I'm working on, right? So if you have lots of stresses in your life, right, just as we talked about earlier, you have to do something to reduce them. So most people do things like we do lots of things, right? So people ask me, what do? I go, oh, wow. I play basketball. I sing karaoke. I exercise. I watch TV. I read books. I do lectures. I go on podcasts. Right? I hang out with my wife. We go to a nice restaurant. We go on vacation. Right? Like 50 things. But this is what I talk about. When the thing that you're doing to reduce your stress starts causing stress, now you're in what I call a stress reducer loop. Okay. So I will say to you, now that I've retired, I spend some more time on my iPad playing games, right? And it's fun. It's relaxing. I get, like, oh, I got one and I got these points and I got this extra dollars, and right. And I'm all excited. But it's starting to get into a loop because my wife's like, honey, you're spending way too much time on that iPad. I'm missing you. You're not writing your second book. You're not writing your third book. What's going on? And you're like, oh, so my iPad, even though it's stress reducing, can start causing stress, and that becomes a stress reducer loop. So if you're doing heroin, well, it doesn't take long before you're in a loop, right? So you do heroin, like, oh, dude, that feels awesome. I feel great. And then you come down, you're like, whoa, this sucks. And then you go, oh, I hope that needle wasn't dirty. Oh, I hope that guy who's in the corner isn't going to shoot me. Oh, I hope the policeman doesn't find the stuff, right? So now the thing that you did to reduce your stress just made it worse. And so now you got to do it again. And then you go, no, you know what? This is causing problems. I'm going to stop. And then you go into withdrawal and you're like, oh, no, not doing that. No, So I did Suboxone in my office. And of the 100 patients that I took care of, 95 were coming to me not because they enjoyed getting high on heroin, because they hated going into withdrawal. That's the only reason they were doing it. And they were losing hope because they were like, every morning I got to get up and find $50 so I can go get high because I don't want to go into withdrawal. And you're like, oh, well, that's the problem, right? So Suboxone was the perfect answer because it doesn't really make you that high at all, really, but it kind of takes the edge off maybe. But it doesn't let you go into withdrawal. And you can get back to work and you can get your family back. And it's like life can get better. And they would look at me and I go, you know what? You're just normal. And they would look and like, wait, what? No one's ever said I was normal. I go, look, you're under stress. You found something that worked. You did it till it became a routine. That's what your brain does. Then you realize this isn't good for me and you tried to stop and you went into withdrawal and you're like, no, I got to get back. But then you're like, you know what? I got to do something about it. This is all normal stuff. That's all normal. Everything that had just happened to you is normal, which is why scientists can't find abnormal because it's all normal. And it can happen to a billionaire and it can happen to a poor person. It can happen to a male. It can happen to a female. It can happen to one twin. It can happen to not. Like, it can happen to anybody. So what I realized was anybody can get into a stress reducer loop. And anything we do to reduce our stress can turn into a loop. And so then guess what it does? It takes the stigma away. So one of my patients that was on Suboxone came in. She said, you know what? I was listening to you. She goes, my sister's in a loop. And I go, okay, what loop is she in? She goes, she's in a shopping loop. I go, what? Shopping loop? What is that? She goes, well, when she gets stressed out, she goes shopping. But when she comes home, her closet's filled up with clothes that she's never worn. Her credit card is maxed out. Her husband's yelling at her, which stresses her out. So what does she do? Goes back and shops, right? So that's the shopping loop. One of the people that used to work for me, two of the people actually, and I've learned that this is actually more common than I ever even imagined, was in a bleach loop. And you're like, okay, what's that? So when she's stressed out, she's bleaching her house, right? So her kids have asthma. So when you throw bleach out into it like irritates their lung, their cabinets are starting to deteriorate. I'm like, well, then stop. No, I can't stop. It has to be clean or else. I go, well, how about using like orange scented sign? No, it has to be straight, right? So they were in a loop. One of my patients was in AA. And I was talking to his wife. I go, well, that must be exciting. Now, he was a really bad alcoholic. He was getting into all kinds of trouble from his alcohol. And I go, so it must be great that he's in AA. She goes, well, not really. I go, what do you mean not really? She goes, well, he used to go out every night to go drinking, then I didn't see him. Now he just goes out every night to AA, and I still don't see him. And I'm like, so AA had turned into a stress reducer loop for him, right? So when you see things like that, then you go, okay, so how do you fix that? Well, here's how you fix it. You go, first off, you tell people they're normal, like everybody else. Two is you go, okay, let's find a way to have less stress. So read my book, Highway to Your Happy Place, A Roadmap to Less Stress, and let's get rid of some of these stresses. And then let's find not just one, but multiple ways to get rid of some of your stresses that don't have the same side effects that whatever it is you pick. Because you mentioned it. One of the things that people get into trouble is they all their stress reducing techniques become one thing. Like, I'm just going to do heroin, that's going to take away all my stresses. I'm just going to smoke weed, it's going to take all my stresses. They get narrowed down. So when you expand and go, look, you can do this, then no one of those things becomes a loop.
Wow, fantastic. Yes, this is brilliant. What a beautiful conversation. And where can actually people get your book and connect with you to see all of your content?
Yeah. So the book is on Amazon and it's on Barnes and Noble on the website. I recorded the audiobook like months ago, and I don't know what's been taking so long. Trying not to get stressed out about it. But like 2 weeks ago, I've connected with the guy who's doing it, and he goes, in 10 days we're going to have the audiobook out, so that should be out. If
Very
not this week,
exciting.
next week, yay! And then I have a website, thelessstressdoc.com, and on the website is some information. And I'm going to have an online course there that should be coming out. That got filmed last year too, so that should be coming out soon. And then if they want to have, so what I found with the book, here's the problem with being an author. Like as a doctor, I'm one-on-one. I'm just talking to you, and I watch you, and I go, "Hey, she's getting it. All right," and I keep on. But in a book, I don't have that, so I don't know if you're understanding what I'm saying or not. I don't know, so I have to write more generically. So if you want some more personalization of the information, then you can email me at lessstressdoc@gmail.com. And then,
Fantastic.
I have a podcast myself. It's called The Happiness Highway. And I don't know about you, but I'm having such a great time being the host on the podcast. It's like, you get to meet all these new people and get all these new
Yes.
interesting ideas. And it's like, yeah, it's kind of fun.
Yes, exactly. That's amazing. Yes, thank you so much, Dr. Gary Sprouse, for coming on the show. What a beautiful conversation. I feel like our listeners are going to learn so much about their own relationship to stress and hopefully how to cope with it in a healthy way and how to
Yes,
accept themselves more as part of this
yes,
human journey.
absolutely.
Thank you
So
so
here's
much.
my last line. What I say to
Yes.
people is, because I know there's a whole bunch of people out there that are stressed to the max, right? They're overwhelmed. And what I say to them is don't quit. Don't resign yourself to being stressed out. It doesn't have to be like that. You can read my book. There's other books. There's lots of people out there that will help you. Don't sit in your house and go, oh, it's never going to get better. No, there's ways to make it better. You don't have to live a stressed out, overwhelmed life. You can enjoy all three tenses of your life, your past, your present, and your future. There's a way to do it.
Wonderful.
Okay. All right. Thank you for having me on the show.